Hi everyone, welcome to the Masters Open Days online. My name is Vera and this is Zoe. We are current archaeology students and today we would like to tell you about our master programs in archaeology. But we also want to make sure we have plenty of time to answer all your questions because we're sure you have quite a lot. So please feel free to use the chat on the side of your screen to ask us any questions. We will first briefly introduce all of our programs and then we'll get to your questions. So please keep sending them in. We have plenty of time to answer them later. So let's start straight away. Why in Leiden? Well, we have our own faculty with our own facilities. We have quite a big program. We will show you later what that is. But first, we are our own faculty. We have many researchers from abroad. We cover a wide variety of topics. And all of this will be included in your learning. So you will have researchers working on their own research and including this in class. You as a student can participate in this research and all of it is connected through the classes you're actually taking. And we also consecutively score in the top 10 of the QS World Ranking, which I think is indicative of this way of teaching and how it's really intertwining research and education. So then our masters, we have a flexibility and choices. This is because we offer that many different disciplines and that many different time periods and regions. The focus is on professional skills. So you will not be just sitting in class, you will be actively participating, you will be presenting, you will be working on your writing skills. All of this is included in the classes. So this can be through weekly assignments, through big presentations at the end, through actually going out and doing a sort of practical. So all of this is included in your masters. And there's about 100 master students that start each year and 10 research master students. We will come to that difference between masters and research masters later, but in brief, regular masters is 1 year and a research masters is 2 years in which you have more time to do research and which is more oriented towards preparing you for a career in academia, perhaps. So then we have 4 one-year specializations: applied archaeology, global archaeology, heritage and museum studies, and archaeological science. Archaeological science is an MSc, and the other ones are Masters of Arts. And within each of these specializations, you will focus on a region and a time period. We cover the Americas, West Asia, the Mediterranean, both East and West, and Europe. And aside from that, you also will be taking electives. These can be archaeology-based, but if you wish to branch out and see what, for example, the humanities in Leiden have to offer, the social sciences, or maybe you would like a little bit more biology into your curriculum, this is the free space to do that in your masters. And of course, you'll be taking a course on theory as well. All of these things are there to support your thesis, which you will write at the end of the year, but which you will kind of start straight away. So then you can incorporate all these things you learn throughout the year into your thesis. Again, a brief map of the regions we cover. And then let's start with our first specialization, applied archaeology. This is probably the one master that best prepares you for becoming a field archaeologist, a commercial archaeologist, or working for heritage agencies. So it's really there to prepare you for the field. You will learn the most up-to-date and current research methods and how to apply these in a practical sense when you're out digging in the field. And sometimes things need to be done quickly, as most people will know from commercial archaeology. So it's really good to have this background and know about the current methods and the current trends in archaeology. Then we have heritage and museum studies. Good to note here is that it's specifically focused on archaeological collections. So it's not modern art or things like that. This is really a heritage and museum studies about archaeological collections. And with this, you can think about ethics or critical museology. How do we deal with legacies? How do we deal with the collections we have? How do we display these? How do we think about repatriation of objects, for example? These are all things included in the museum studies. You will also be thinking more broadly about community engagements. This can also be outside of museums. So it's good to note that with this master's, you'll also be focusing on how to reach the community in the widest sense, not just within museums. And then we have archaeological science, in which we have a couple of specializations. We have material studies, we have digital archaeology, archaeozoology, we have osteology and botany. And within the archaeological science masters, you will really be learning about one specific methodology and then applying this in your thesis to a corpus based on your specialization. So this could, for example, be GIS mapping or digital or computational models. But with artifacts, you can think of provenance research. You can think of petrography, as is mentioned here as an example. With the botany, osteology, and zoology, you can think about environment reconstructions. These are all things you'll be doing in archaeological science masters. So you'll be really learning one specific science in that sense, and then how to apply this and what does it say about the past? How can we include this or incorporate this to really give a better understanding of our past? Then we have global archaeology, which is really about constantly zooming in and out of regions or time periods. How does one phenomenon, spread, or how is it manifested elsewhere? Is it really a local thing? Is it a regional thing? Is it a global thing? What trends can we spot, and how does this sort of go through time? You can think of big topics like climate change, migrations, things like that. But you can also choose to track it through specific materials or specific, burial practices, things like that. So it's really about sort of seeing history in the big perspective. And then also, how can this contribute to current day debates? Think climate change. People in the past had to deal with this. How do people deal with this now? Or how should we deal with this now? Again, these are the regions you can choose from. Human origins, of course, spans beyond the geographical regions. Then we have Europe, West Asia, Mediterranean, and the Americas. And again, during your masters, you can take courses on any of these regions in different time periods. This is a slide to just show you again the width and the sort of wide scope of all the things we offer. It goes from archaeology in the daily life of the first millennium CE to key developments in European prehistory. It's really a wide scope. I guess this is just a list. But yeah, we will show you later where you can find an overview of the courses. So this slide is just here to illustrate this, but don't worry, later you can look this up yourself. And then, my own personal experience with my masters, I'm doing the Global Archaeology Masters, and I did my BA here as well. And the reason I chose global is because I really like to focus on these connections, and then especially around the Mediterranean. On the left photo, there's me looking at amphorae in Rome, and then in the middle, the same amphorae are found in Jerusalem. So it's really like it's spanning everywhere, and you can find these things everywhere. And what does this say about connectivity or people traveling or the importance of certain vessels? This was wine, and apparently people enjoyed this wine so much they really wanted it in the Western Mediterranean as well. These vessels have been found as far away as Britain. And I also really like fieldwork, which I figured fit well with global archaeology as well. I really like to go out into the field and find these objects themselves and really, dive into the past, have a hands-on experience as well. And that is why I join a project in Jordan every year as well. And that's what my thesis is about too. So we find these beads. It's in a region in Jordan where not that many people have done research yet. So really this is a first step in really understanding the people that lived in these deserts, because there's also these assumptions that people don't live there. But as it turns out, people do live there. And how do they get these beads? What is the possible meaning behind these beads? How old are these beads? These are all questions still left unanswered. And that is what I hope to do with my MA Global Archaeology. But then we also have a 2-year program, which Zoe is doing.
Yes. So I'll talk a little bit about the Research Master in Archaeology, because that's the project or the program that I'm doing. So as you can see on the screen, it is, instead of a 1-year program, it is a 2-year program. You have general courses that are related to archaeological theory and epistemology, so it dives a little bit deeper into the conceptualization of archaeology, but it also focuses on professional skills. So when you enroll in the Research Master, you are automatically enrolled in Archon as well. So that is basically the big Dutch research group for archaeology, and they organize events to which you have to attend a few of them in order to get credits for that as well. But that really offers a breadth of different kind of seminars that you can follow, and it's also very useful to be able to meet, for example, people from Groningen and Amsterdam as well. Next to that, we also have the teaching assistants, because the Research Master is kind of more focused on leading you towards an academic career. Teaching will eventually be part of that as well, so you really get a little taste for it already in the Masters, which I think is very important and very interesting as well. You get to choose your research seminars as well, so every year there are research seminars on different topics. And you really get to develop your personal profile, because while with the regular Masters you have a semi-fixed, Vera will show a bit more about that later, I think, but a semi-fixed schedule, with the Research Masters you can really pick and choose and kind of create your own curriculum a little bit more than in the regular Masters. So you really build your personal profile to the kind of researcher that you want to become. Next to this, you can also attend conferences. These can either be organized through Archon or separately, and this is a very good way to build your network as well, especially if you want to get into academia after your Research Master. So I'll show a bit about my experience. I showed these two photos because I think it kind of shows the different aspects of what you can do as an archaeology student in the Masters or in the Research Master. Both of these are from fieldwork, although one is the more fieldwork in the more classical sense, as you can see on the left, with actual excavation. And on the right, another important part is community engagement. So on the left, that was an excavation in Oman, and on the right, it's a project that we have in the Dominican Republic, where we went to a school to kind of teach the kids about archaeology as well. So it's really, you really get all these different kinds of experiences, which I think are very, very valuable, especially if you want to continue a career in academia. Then a little bit about intersection. So the faculty has their own peer-reviewed journal, and it's open access as well. So every now and then they print a physical version as well, but all the articles, as soon as they are basically approved, they are put online to be accessed by everyone. So they kind of, you are encouraged if you write a very good paper for a class that you're very proud of, or if you want to publish your thesis after you're done with your studies, intersection really is the way to go. They lead you throughout the entire process from the beginning to the end. They help you with kind of your writing style, and eventually also peer review. It's kind of a smaller step to really publishing, because it is a peer-reviewed journal, but they really walk you through it. So I think it's incredibly helpful that we as students at the faculty get this opportunity. And I think it shows, because I also recently published an article in here, and I can attest to the fact that they really make you feel at ease with the whole process and are very, very constructive. Also, if you're interested to see what kind of articles our students write, check out the website to have a look at that as well. So a little bit about the social life in Leiden. You can maybe already get an impression from all the photos, but we have a very big study association, Terra. Very international friendly. All the events are organized in English, and everyone is welcome. There's a great variety of types of events, from lectures to sporting events to international trips to visit as many museums in the city as you can. There's, of course, drinks every now and then. There's also the book market, which is very helpful if you want to really fatten up your collection of archaeology books for a small price. A lot of old professors donate a bunch of books, and you get to peruse them and find a book that really suits you. And I think the most important part about these kinds of events is that they really enable community building within the faculty. So we have, for example, also faculty lectures and faculty drinks where students and staff can really come together to learn about a new topic, or just if you've been scared to ask that one professor if you can maybe join their project, that would be the perfect time to approach them for that. And then a little bit about the city of Leiden. It is a beautiful city with a bunch of museums. So for archaeology, we have the National Museum of Antiquities, which you as an archaeology student also get free access to. Then we have the National Museum of Ethnology. I cannot remember if we get free access to that.
Maybe a student discount. Probably.
Maybe a student discount, probably. Then we have Naturalis, which is the large, basically natural history museums. And for these three, actually, it's very interesting because a lot of students also, if they are, for example, interested in conducting research in museums or more related to bioanthropology, then there are a bunch of connections with these museums as well. Naturalis is pretty much next door to the faculty building, so it really lowers the threshold of being able to explore what these kind of museum worlds are like as well. Then there is the Japan Museum, the Sieboldhuis, which is klein maar fijn. It's very small but super interesting. And then you have the National Museum Boerhaven, which has to do with the history of science. They're all very fascinating. I would definitely recommend at least going to all of them once. And for the Armo, it's really easy because you can just walk in there for free. And if you just fall in love with one of the rooms, the Egyptian room, you could just go in there whenever you want. It's lovely.
It's lovely. You have a free afternoon. You can just quickly go in and out again. It's fine. And it's also one of the museums that you can take internships with, for example. I already briefly mentioned the elective space, but this could be filled up with courses, but it could also be filled up with internships, such like at any of these museums. So that's good to know as well, because it's a small city, but as you can tell, it has loads of museums. And the good thing is they're not far away, because Leiden is such a small town. You can walk there. Let's see, yeah. Another important aspect, what can you do with our MAs, RMAs, MSCs? In brief, it seems that about 50% gets a job inside of archaeology and about 50% gets a job outside of archaeology. And within archaeology, you can think of commercial archaeology, heritage agencies, you can think of GIS work, you can think of pursuing a career in academia or teaching or community outreach. And outside of archaeology, you can also think about these heritage agencies, but maybe more on a policy level. You can also think of this within municipalities or within the government, ministries, things like that. You have an MA and you are very trained into sort of processing loads of data. So this can easily be applied outside of archaeology. And this is something we see a lot as well. Hence the 50-50. It is quite, well, it's been increasing, I would say. And ICT is also a big field for people to end up in outside of archaeology, because you do have the basics of how to deal with a data set, how to, well, most people likely pick up a little bit of GIS or a little bit of something, you know, how to work databases. So yeah, again, these are very useful skills outside of archaeology too. Education can also be non-archaeological education, or in museums, for example. So yeah, these are the main areas people end up in. This could be staying in academia, commercial archaeology, museums, policy, communications, ICT. So those are the big fields. Loads of data, but it comes down to what we've just been talking about. And I think right now we have, in brief, discussed all the programs we have on offer, and we would very much like to hear what you have to ask. Let's see. Could your elective space be filled with courses from different specialization? For example, if you want to have applied archaeology as your main specialization, could your elective space be filled with courses from heritage and museum studies? Yes, very much so. So you have this elective space really to fill with any courses you're interested in. This could be from the other specializations. This could be, again, an internship, a lab internship, fieldwork internship, museum internship, but it could also be courses from outside of archaeology. So yeah, you're very much free to take some heritage and museum studies for your elective space, yes. Let's see if we have another question coming up. Interested in experimental archaeology. Which program, if possible, could allow me to study work in this area? I'm in the US. Is it possible to start the MSc program as an online program? Okay, let's go to the first question, experimental archaeology. I guess I didn't mention this, but this is part of the material studies MSc as well. So I would definitely look into the MSc Archaeological Sciences and then the Material Studies specialization, because we have our own lab for material studies, which includes sort of a wet room in which you can do experiments. There's also, we have locations you can do experiments at as well. We have staff specialized in experimental archaeology or having done loads of experiments themselves. So definitely look into this, this option. And then,
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, of course.
So this summer, I told you about Archon before, the Dutch research school for archaeology. And this summer there was also a summer school on experimental archaeology, in which different aspects were highlighted. If you are a research master student, those are usually free to attend. So that is also a possibility. If you do the research master, for example, you can get study points for that. So that is... it's not directly embedded into the curriculum. It's definitely a possibility, and the faculty is also related to the EXARC, experimental archaeology group, let's say. So I think there's plenty of opportunities.
Yeah, nice. Let's see, there was also a second part to this question. Is it possible to start the program online or remotely? Unfortunately, this is not possible. You really have to be present in Leiden to take the courses. We do no longer have a remote option or an online option. So really all teaching is online, on campus. Sorry. Let's see if we have a next question. Is it possible to transfer to the research master while doing a one-year program?
Yes, it is. When you apply for the research master, you are either declined, accepted, or temporarily accepted. So that means also when you're doing your master's and you realize, hey, I would like to do a little bit more than just these courses, and I want to really dive in deeper, you can always put in a request with the committee in order to transfer to your research masters as well. There are a few requirements for this. You need a 7.5 average for your master courses up until then. But it's definitely an option that stays open. Even if you don't meet that requirement, if they can tell that you're really motivated, you always have the opportunity to at least be able to pursue it. So yeah, that's definitely an opportunity to transfer to the research masters, yes.
So it would mean you will start the first semester in the one-year program, and then after the first semester you would transfer?
Yeah, exactly. And usually you can take the study points for most of the courses you did in your regular masters, and you might have to fill in with a few more courses at the end, but in principle it's very much possible to transfer.
Perfect, thanks. Let's see. This is about the archaeological science specialization. Is it more addressed to students with a scientific background, or is it applicable to a more theoretical archaeological knowledge background as well? There are a few basic requirements you have to meet, but generally this just means a background in archaeology, heritage studies, program-related background, basically. So this does not have to mean you have to come from a biology or physics background, if that makes sense. But to make this more clear, maybe we can go to the presentation, and then I can show you a slide which, here we go, admission and application. The second one is a QR code for the archaeological science admissions. If you scan this code and have a look, you will see the exact requirements, and you will see that it is mainly a university degree with background in archaeology. But there's a few additional requirements that differ per program, so it would be good to check them out with any programs you're interested in. But definitely you do not have to have a very specific biological background. Let's see if we can go back to the questions. I'm not sure if that fully answered the question, but I think so. We have another one. I'm a student from the UvA in Amsterdam, and I also have my BA. I'm interested in MSc. Yeah, is it still doable, or is there an expectation of knowledge?
So I guess that's quite a similar question.
Yes, yeah. And then it's also good to know that we have a pre-master's program as well. So if you're unsure if you meet the requirements, or if you might just not meet the requirements, there's the option to do an extra sort of foundation year, pre-master's year, in which you will get up to speed with all the knowledge you need to have in order to be admissible to the MSc. So this could be, for example, a course on osteology or a course on botany. But it's there to prepare you then to do that MSc in the end. So it will take you a year extra, but you will get in with the right background and with the same knowledge everybody else has. Are there student teaching opportunities for the one-year masters?
There are. So sometimes, for example, for large groups of bachelor students, when they organize practicals, for example, they might need an extra hand or two. So there are student teaching opportunities for master students, but this is something you can then agree on with the lecturers of that specific course, for example. So they are rare in the sense that it's primarily for practicals, but the opportunity is definitely there. And I think one of the key aspects of coming to do your master's in archaeology in Leiden is just kind of asking for what you want. If you're interested in something, if you think, hey, that project seems interesting, or hey, it would be really interesting to help with teaching or something, all you got to do is ask. I think there's quite an open environment in which asking is really encouraged as well, because everyone wants you to get the most out of your education as you can. So definitely, if you feel like you are very motivated to do something, always offer your help. That would
I would totally agree. Lecturers are very open and welcome and willing to help, even if it's not possible within the faculty, maybe they can help you with opportunities outside of the faculty or different fieldwork projects. It could be anything. Really just ask. Is it possible to do exchanges with other universities abroad? I think this probably mainly applies to the research masters, because that gives you more time to do this. I guess it might also be possible with a regular masters, but I do think you can probably not manage within a year.
No, I think it's also, it wouldn't be able to exchange for the credits you need to get at Leiden, so I think this would be an extra thing.
That sounds about. But again, we're also just students, not study advisors, so we can recommend emailing the study advisor about this. I think that would be the best way to go about this.
Yes.
And if we go to the presentation, I can quickly pull up the email address. Let's see. So we have the MA study advisor. And to generally reach the study advisors, there's also studyadvisors@art.leidenuniv.nl. So with that specific question, I would try and reach the MA study advisor. Let's see. Let's go back to the questions. How does the Heritage and Museum Studies Master in Archaeology differ from Art History and Museum Studies Masters in Arts and Culture? Well, I guess, again, this one is specifically focused on archaeological collections, but I'm not too familiar with the other one. I'm also not sure if this is the one at Leiden, you mean, or a general arts and culture masters. But I'm also not sure how many specific heritage and museum studies related to archaeology there are. I think this is one of the few that has a specific focus on archaeological collections. But again, that would be the main difference. You would really be focusing on heritage and archaeological collections, and not, again, modern art, paintings, things like that. We have another question. I wonder if it's possible to extend the internship contract in a museum perhaps after graduating if I take the internship program. That I guess this is something you would have to discuss with wherever you're taking that internship, because maybe some museums only do this for credits, only allow students in, but maybe there's also paid positions, or maybe, whenever you're discussing this with your supervisor at the museum, maybe there are possibilities. This is not something...
Yeah, it's definitely, again, just ask. Yeah. I think that's the best way to go about it.
True, yeah. And you can also, continue up after you finish your credits, I guess. There's the elective spaces 10 ECs. So that would be quite a long time doing an internship anyways. You can also break this up in 2 times 5 EC. But yeah, again, I guess this is something you would really have to discuss with wherever you're taking the internship at the time. But we love the enthusiasm. What should I expect or have prepared for the Research Master interview?
A few things you need to have prepared are an idea of what you would want to research. So this is, again, there are many professors with many different research projects. So the best way to go about it is to email them and say, hello, I'm interested in applying to the Research Master program at Leiden. I'm interested in your project, and I was wondering if you would be interested in supervising me in this particular research. And then it is very important that you have this connection with a supervisor at Leiden, and you have a broad idea of what the research is that you want to do, which might sound scary, but really sending an email, a lot of people are super open to help new students and are often very excited, especially if someone comes with their own research questions. So that is, I think, the main thing you have to be prepared for, is to have a little bit of an idea of what you want to research ready.
And with whom you would like to do that research then?
Yes,
as well.
Exactly. So have someone that embeds you into the faculty, basically.
Perfect. Let's see, next question. Is it possible to transition to an archaeology master's with an anthropology bachelor's? Again, I would recommend emailing the study advisor for this, because it might be possible for you to be directly admitted, but it might also have to be possible for you to do a pre-master's first. We cannot really comment on individual admission requests or questions, but yeah, feel free to ask the study advisor. In the admission requirements, it says that you need 60 ECTs of archaeological courses to be able to enroll in the MA. Would an archaeology-oriented bachelor's thesis of 30 ECTs count for this total or not? Again? We're not sure. Answer. Yeah, same answer. Please study the email the study advisor. They can best advise you on this.
All right. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to ask them.
Yeah. Maybe in the meantime. Oh, there's a new question coming in. Is there some sort of numerous fixes on the Research Master? How strict is the selection?
There is no numerous fixes. Selection. I think the main thing is, if you have the grades, it's kind of like a job interview. So really just convince them to take you into the Research Master rather than the Masters. I think the point of focusing on research in your application interview is really important, because one question they will ask is, but why can't you just do this in a regular Master? So you kind of have to figure out why you stand out, let's say, in the sense that why is the research that you want to perform doable not in 1 year but in 2 years? So in that sense, they are strict that if you can't convince them that your research really needs 2 years, they might just suggest a master, but it's not terribly strict. A little bit of a vague answer, but you might as well try.
What you say then, the interview is focused really on your research, or can these other things like wanting to attend conferences, doing teaching assistants, are those also things that can tie into your interview?
Yeah, definitely, because the program is really focused on getting you into the world of academia, basically. So if you kind of present the qualities of wanting to become a researcher, so, you know, a larger research program is part of that, but also exactly wanting to attend conferences, just showing your eagerness to learn, I think really ties into that. So that can include like the teaching assistants as well. It's always good to be able to know the difference between the two programs, the master's and the research master's, because basically if you don't have a good idea of why the research master is different and they feel like you're applying for it just because it has a better title, I guess, then I think on that they will be strict in the sense that they will just recommend you to go to the regular masters.
I think it might also be good to note that you can also do a 1-year master's and still apply for PhD positions. For example, it does not mean that doing a 1-year master's excludes you from proceeding in academia or visiting these conferences yourself. It's just it's more facilitated, more in place, well, with more guidance, I would say, because you have those 2 years, but it does in no way... doing a 1-year program excludes you from pursuing a PhD.
No, definitely not.
Let's see if we have another question. Not yet? Oh, we do. Is there a way we can find projects in which we can participate?
Many. Many different ways. One way is in the faculty we have poster boards, and if someone has a new project coming up, they'll put up a big poster. Email before this date if you want to join this program. I think they're also highlighted on the faculty website. There's a faculty newsletter for students as well. So they all, there's online and in-person ways to find projects, basically.
True. And we also have an annual job market and fieldwork project market in which, this is a place where companies can come by, museums come by, but also the staff will promote their own projects. And it's sometimes also mentioned in class. If you have, for example, say you're taking a course on Oman and there's a fieldwork project in Oman, it will be mentioned in class. So there's many different ways in which you will be informed about them. Plus, it does not mean that you only have to join Leiden projects. If you find your own project, you can also join that and still get the elective credits for it. You're not tied to just Leiden, although Leiden has loads of interesting projects to offer, so definitely check them out. But yeah, it's good to know that there's more than just Leiden.
Maybe also good to say that there is multiple times in the year where these call for projects can come out. For example, the project in Oman usually happens in January, so the call for applicants will usually come around April. But for example, for summer fieldwork projects, the calls come around, I want to say, October, November.
Yeah, maybe even a bit later. It also depends on where you're going, what needs to be prepared, like bureaucracy-wise. So being at the faculty and having a look at the notice boards, it's definitely recommended.
Yeah.
Let's see. What is the balance between lectures and independent study or research? How much contact time with the lecturers and supervisors should I expect? What have previous students built their research around?
3 very big questions.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, let's start with the first one. The balance between lectures and independent study or research. I guess I can best illustrate this with one of the slides we have, because we prepared sort of an example of what your year might look like if you take global archaeology, for example. So you can see you need to take career profile courses, and they're spread out throughout the year. So we divide our semester in blocks. So every block is 7 weeks. So we'll have 7 weeks of classes, 1 week off, 7 weeks of classes, holidays, 7 weeks of classes, 1 week off, 7 weeks of classes, holidays. And as you can see, best thing to do would be to start your thesis straight away, because, well, these courses take place at different times of the year. So it's also up to you to sort of schedule this in a way you think is possible, because it might be that all the courses you want to take are in block 2, which would mean that you would have to, know that you have less time to work on your thesis then. Or if you find many interesting courses, you can also base it around spacing it throughout the year. So if you know there's courses you like in block 1 and in block 4, why not spread them out? So this is also, again, like a sort of an independent thing for you to think about and how to structure your courses. I would say this is definitely something to work on yourself independently. But then if you have any questions or are getting stuck, you can definitely contact the study advisor. They are there to help you with this and give you advice on this and to help you with, well, how much study load can I actually take on at this time. So yeah, you can have a look at the study guide through this QR code to see what is offered throughout the year. Then sort of make your own planning like this. And then if you have any questions about it, send it on to the study advisor and they can help. But all these courses are about 2 hours a week. I would say one course is about 2 hours each week, and then the rest is independent studying or reading or preparing.
Be sure that when you check out the study guide at the top, you click the right academic year. Might be important to know.
Let's see, there was a second part to the question. The contact hours, yeah, definitely. So classes are about 2 hours a week, but then you do need to do some prep time and maybe write an essay at the end, so also schedule that in.
In terms of contact time with supervisors, that really also partly depends on your supervisor and partly depends on yourself. So some supervisors are really like, we're going to meet once a week and I expect this, and that from you, in a bit of a nicer way. But and otherwise, they expect a little bit of initiative from your side in order to kind of tell them how you would like to be supervised. If you don't know, you can tell them that as well, and that's maybe something that the study advisor can also help advise you on how to maybe best set up that relationship. So I think it really depends on which supervisor you get.
Perfect. Yeah. Let's see, do we have another question? Can you share your personal experiences living in Leiden as a student? 1 or 2 things that international students should expect and prepare for, maybe.
I would want to say you should expect to be able to ride a bike or learn to be able to ride a bike. Leiden city center is relatively small. You can walk everywhere, but definitely if you want to go somewhere outside, of course, public transportation, especially in the Leiden region, is good. But learning how to ride a bike is definitely one of the main things for international students, I think.
And another thing I would say is start in time with looking for housing. It can be quite difficult to find housing in Leiden, but you can also branch out a little bit. There's 4 or 5 towns adjacent to Leiden that are still only 20 minutes by bike, where loads of students live as well. And The Hague is only 10 minutes by train. So I would definitely recommend, when looking for housing, to also branch out and have a look at the options around Leiden and to start in time. Because there's loads of students looking for housing. What is the greatest strength of a master in Leiden in your own experiences?
Well, I guess in terms of the research master, what for me the greatest strength is really the many different kinds of excavation projects that you can join. So I made a switch from Caribbean to Oman, and that's kind of the fact that is possible, to kind of, focus on one thing for a while and then still change and be able to carry over the skills you got from the first project and from the courses to that second project, I think for me is very valuable. So I think that is a very great strength, is that there are so many different projects that you can join.
Yeah, fair. I also think the size is a strength to me personally. That's 100 students. It's quite a lot a year, and they're coming from all different countries, from everywhere, with different backgrounds. And I really feel like the way the courses are set up, you really have the space to give your own input and your own experiences. And since everybody's coming from a different background, it really makes for nice, balanced discussions, and also things I had no idea about before. Say, heritage discussions in Greece, for example. I had no idea before, but through these courses, these are things you learn and you take with you. And I think that's been very valuable to me, at least. Would there be a possibility to take a minor during the studies? A minor really is a thing for your bachelor's, so that's a 30 ECT space to do something outside of archaeology. But I would say the master's equivalent would be your elective space, where you have 10 ECs to take courses outside of archaeology, which is 1/6 of your program. So I would say that is, quite a bit of a big chunk in which you have freedom to do a minor type thing. It's just called differently.
And you're also kind of free to, if you're interested in 3 different other courses at different faculties, you can follow all 3 of them. Only 2 will be recognized basically for your archaeology ECTS, but you can get an extra elective if you want to follow another course.
As in like an extracurricular activity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that will be mentioned on your diploma, but it won't be part of your archaeology master's, basically.
True. But keep in mind that this will be an extra study load.
Yeah,
so you'll be doing, for example, 70 ECs instead of 60 ECs.
Yeah.
So that is something to keep in mind, I would say.
Yeah, especially if you want to finish within a year. Yeah. But the university is your oyster, and you can make use of it in all the ways you want to.
Yeah, it's a really nice way of sort of going around the elective space. Yeah, and you can still take all those courses. Yeah, it's really nice. Let's see. What would be the main differences in experience needed? What you're taught, and where you can go from in between global archaeology and the research masters? Let me read that question again. The experience is needed. I would say there's. You start from a bachelor's degree, so in principle you sort of have the same experiences going in, because you have that bachelor degrees, which is the same for the global archaeology masters and the research masters. With the research masters, there's this extra added condition that you need to have certain grades. And in the way you're being taught, I guess.
A little bit more. You're given a bit more freedom, I guess. Also, because you are 10 ECs of the research master is to go to conferences and different Archon events. So that is really individual. No one is kind of helping you with that. You have to find the courses that you're interested in. You have to write a report after. There's no teacher that will grade it. There's your supervisor is not really involved in that. So it's a little bit more independent. And yeah, maybe something relevant to mention here is that the bachelor's also has an honors program, but that is not something, that's not an experience you need in order to be admissible to the research master program. I think it's primarily dependent on your motivation.
I think it might be, we have taken classes together, for example, but me as a regular student had to maybe do an assignment less or something, right? I feel like whenever we're taking courses together, the research masters have to do a little extra thing, right?
Yeah,
Is
exactly.
That right?
That's a very good point to bring up. So there are certain classes that you follow as a research master as well, and then the research master equivalent of it is that they have the word advanced in front of it. And that kind of means that either you have to write a bigger essay at the end, or in group projects you have a different role. So for example, archaeological theory, the idea was that we wrote a edited journal. Then the role of the research master student was to edit the journal, write the introduction and the conclusion to it, and supervise the other master students in the group in writing their papers. So you get kind of a different role in classes as well. You can also be asked to lead discussions in class as a research master. So it might require a different kind and a little bit more preparation.
Yes. Let's see. Is there some support from Leiden University cost-wise when going on excavation? This is a really good question, and it's really project dependent. There is some funding available at Leiden University as well, especially when you go outside of Europe. It's called Lustra Plus. You can look this up. And the cost of an excavation are really different per project. So I guess it's a difficult question to answer.
Yeah, if you go to Barbados or to Breda, that is, one, you have to buy a plane ticket, the other, maybe a train ticket. But
yeah, and some excavations might reimburse your plane ticket as well, whereas some might not.
Yeah.
But there's always opportunities to find funding yourself as well. There are scholarships available. Yes. You can look up yourself. Yeah.
Especially from Leiden, like the Lustra is a very, very good one. You are pretty much always guaranteed to get that, and that's dependent on the period of how many days you go. But for example, there is the NINO in Leiden, the Institute for Near Eastern Studies, practically, and they have a outgoing mobility grant as well. So if you want to go on an excavation in West Asia, for example, you can apply there, and that's another avenue of funding that you could try to apply for.
True, yeah. So you could ask the study advisor, the project leader, students that have gone in previous years. These are always great people to ask about the opportunities there are per project. Let's see if we have another question. What are the application requirements for students from Saxion? We have a slide on this as well. Let's see. Yeah. So...
in capital letters.
Yeah.
And in Dutch, because it is Dutch, Dutch bachelor's, I think.
Yeah, it's the Dutch Archaeology of Applied Sciences. I think the best thing to do would be to just leave this on the screen for a while, so you
take
can...
a screenshot.
Take a screenshot, yeah. Read it. It's also under the admission tab on the website. So on the link we showed earlier, there's also a special tab with Saxion. So you can read it again there as well. Let's see if we have any more questions. I have a BA of Classics, and during that I had some courses about archaeology. Most of them are theory. Is it possible to apply for the MA or Global Archaeology, or is it better to start with the pre-master program? The thing you can do is apply for the Global Archaeology Masters, and then there's an admission committee deciding on whether you're directly admissible or whether you need to do the pre-masters first. The only thing is there's a little bit of a fee if you're a non-EU student, which is non-refundable. So the other thing to do would be to, again, check with the study advisors first, see what they have to say about your background and the specific courses you've taken.
Any other questions?
Let's have we have a few slides maybe we haven't shown yet. We could see if there's other things.
Leave them on for a while so people can screenshot in case they want to have the information.
Perfect. Yeah, these are also things to keep in mind. You can start both in September and in February. And there's different deadlines depending on whether you would need to apply for a visa and resident permit or not. The tuition fees for next year are mentioned here as well. Again, they also differ if you're an EU student or from outside of the EU. The English requirements. Generally, you're exempt if you have done the Dutch VWO or have done an English-taught bachelor's at a Dutch research university. If you've done the International Baccalaureate, or if you're from a native English country, a native English-speaking country, and have done your education there. Maybe not the most interesting thing to mention, but important, because you will need to meet these requirements when applying. Again, we have our admission and application. Might be good to leave this on for a little bit, as you can scan the QR code for yourselves. We have this slide. We have an example of this. Do you feel like your year looked like this, evenly spaced out?
Well, I think the thing about the research master is that there isn't someone who really looks at whether, you know, this program would then be kind of well spread out, because you can kind of pick and choose. So there were times where I had 5 courses that I really wanted to follow. Don't do that. It's a bad idea. Definitely check with the study advisor before, because your mental health is also important. So mine, I think, was a little bit more chaotic. But yeah, it really depends on what you make of it, basically.
Yeah. And I can also imagine there's a bit of strength in doing your courses first, so you can focus on your research after.
Yeah, exactly. Although, because the program is 2 years, you can kind of think of it as like the first year is the really, of course, when you want to apply, you have to have an idea of the research you want to do, but the first year can really be like really thinking that out and maybe going on a fieldwork project or collecting the data that you would need. And then the second year, you can write and write and write and write.
Perfect. I see we have another question coming in. Would you say interdisciplinarity is a strength of archaeological research at Leiden University?
Yes. A few things we kind of touched upon in the presentation was that Leiden also has links with a lot of the museums in Leiden, so the Natural History Museum. There are professors who are related to that as well. So in that sense, there really is a focus on interdisciplinarity. There's also one big university-wide research theme, Livable Planet, which really ties together archaeology, geology. So that is really one of the big projects in which archaeology also plays a role. And that is kind of, spans different faculties at the university. That answers your question.
Yeah, and I would say in terms of, if you think about, for example, incorporating linguistics or things like that, I wouldn't say that is necessarily facilitated within the faculty, but again, you have this option of going to the faculty and taking those courses. This could be at the humanities and think, for example, religious studies, linguistics, things like that, history, learning a language, because also you do not need to, for example, know Akkadian if that's the archaeology you're interested in. So these are things you can add to your curriculum, and in that way it's very it's facilitated in the way that you can do those things. But again, this is something you really have to actively pursue yourself. But then archaeology inherently is interdisciplinary, so you would always be tying in from all these different disciplines when trying to tell your story about the past.
You can also look in the study guide at all the other courses that are offered at the other faculties, and you can already think about like, how would I want to tie in my study in archaeology with perhaps these other courses. So that's something you can kind of plan ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Let's see, I'm a current pre-master student. I chose heritage and museum studies, but I'm interested in global archaeology as well. Would it be possible to focus on both fields? I would say, again, have a look at both of the study guides, because you do have this elective space in which you could choose to do career profile courses from the other fields. So say you would like to do museum studies, you can do electives from global archaeology. And I do think the specialization courses from global archaeology, you can also take as focus area courses. So in a sense, you would really be combining those two. But this is a very specific example, but definitely have a look at both of the study guides and see how you can tie those together.
And you can always ask the study advisor.
This is a great answer.
Yeah.
I'm doing Dutch archaeology courses at the UvA, but nearly all of my courses are in English just because it's...
That is a very good question that I don't know the answer to.
Neither do I, but I do think if it's both archaeology and mainly in English, it will be fine, but...
Ask the study advisor. Yeah, just in case. I think it should be all right, but we're just students and we're not completely sure.
Yeah, it's always good to check.
All right.
Okay, well, I think we've answered all the questions you had. We got to tell all the things we wanted to say, I think. I
Yeah.
mean, we can keep talking about archaeology forever, but
Forever.
you also want to move on with your day, I guess. So let's put up one final slide
There we go.
for more information and where to follow us on social media. So if you have any questions later, please feel free to email the student ambassador at arc.leidenuniv.nl email address. Your questions will come to me. I will answer them. And also scan this QR code if you would like another brief introduction to our programs later. Thank you, Zoe, for this presentation. And thank you all for watching.
Thanks very much. Have a lovely day.